Find you, Alex. Yeah, I'm calling you out because I know you listen to every episode now, Alex. What's a portcullis?
What?
Oh, he couldn't say the word portcullis, so I'm calling you out.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like the drawbridge, or like the gating that goes up and down.
Oh,
over
like
something.
the London Bridge?
Yeah. He called it portcullis. And I'm like, you don't get to say that and then give me all the shit I got last night. So, fuck you. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then my last thing, huge apology to Dustin.
Yeah.
He was having I don't want to say a meltdown, but a very difficult time editing our unrehearsed stories. So we are not unrehearsing stories ever again.
Why was he having a hard time with that?
It's a lot of editing.
Why though?
Because we kept fucking up. And then also because I didn't screen my stories.
Well, yeah. I do want to thank him though, because if you didn't listen to last week's episode, you need to, because there's a lot of there's a lot of sound effects and it's great. And then I love that he left when you said moist, you did a little and you could hear it and I was like, thank God he left that in.
So I apologize, Daddy. I promise we are not going to unrehearse. We're not going to
do that again.
We won't read them that long again.
Yeah, but I like the story that I found for you. I was searching. I'm like, she's going to have a breakdown.
I literally was having a breakdown.
I know.
Mental health and me are just not together.
Yeah.
I really think that's it for my catch up.
Okay. Fact of the week. We have in 1720, Caribbean pirate Calico Jack Rackham, one of the first pirates to use the Jolly Roger, was captured by the Royal Navy. And then the banger of the week. It just so happened to be Bobby Boris's from the Picket and the Crypt Kickers Monster Mash. I found that and was so excited.
Monster Mash.
But yeah, that's it for this week for facts and bangers. You want to introduce what we're doing this week?
Okay, so we have a nice, easy, total fun week.
Yeah.
We're doing, every year we're going to be doing it, fall favorites.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing top fives this week.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to do the categories or?
Yes, state the categories.
So, our categories are top 5 serial killers, top 5 horror movies, top 5 fall foods, fall smells, and fall activities.
Yeah. And don't worry, with the serial killers, we're going to give you a little summary about them.
Yeah, a little bit of wiki.
A little bit of something.
So you want to take it away?
Go first? Okay. So mine are in no particular order for every
none
section.
of mine are.
They're just these are my top 5. So Ted Bundy. He was an American serial killer and rapist. He was one of the most notorious criminals of the late 20th century, known to have killed at least 20 women in the 1970s, and he was executed in the electric chair in Florida in 1989. He's crazy, but I'm sorry, serial killers are fascinating, their minds and how they work. It just blows my mind of how crazy they are.
Agreed. Basically. All of these people are people who are so messed up.
Demented. My next one, the one that we have the same.
Me. Do we want to go back and forth between our serial killers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So we have done a podcast on her before, but she's still one of my favorite prolific serial killers, and that's Elizabeth Bathory.
Oh, yes.
A little wiki paragraph here. Elizabeth Bathory was a Hungarian noblewoman and serial killer from the family of Bathory, who owned lands in the Kingdom of Hungary. Bathory and 4 collaborators were accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and women between 1590 and 1610. Her accomplices were put on trial and convicted, whereas Bathory was confined to her home. She was imprisoned December 1610 within Castle... I'm going to fuck this up. Szczyt?
Your guess is as good as mine.
In present-day Slovakia. or it would be in present-day Slovakia. She inspired many works about vampirism and the macabre.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay. So my next one is Eileen Wuornos. She is definitely on the higher of my top 5 if I were to give her like a level, because she just has like the crazy eyes and the crazy
They
look.
scare me.
Yes, and it's like my favorite thing. I don't know. She just is like mad, like a Mad Hatter type vibe.
She literally looks like she would
I
murder
watched
you.
a documentary on her, and I literally would watch it again. It wasn't like on her. It was like a series, and every episode was a different serial killer, I think it was. I have to look that up again because I'll watch it again. But like, she just would like look at the camera, like her teeth baring and her eyes wide, and I'm like, who hurt you? But obviously, she was an abused child who later earned her living as a sex worker. She was found guilty of killing 6 men and also was later executed in Florida.
So do you want to hear what I wrote about her, or
Yeah.
what I got
Yes.
from Wikipedia?
Yeah,
It says Eileen Wuornos was an American serial killer and prostitute who murdered 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990 by shooting them at point blank range. Wuornos, is it Wuornos? Is that how it's called?
Wuornos, yeah.
Wuornos claimed that her victims had either raped or attempted to rape her while they were soliciting sex from her, and that all of the homicides were committed in self-defense. She was sentenced to death for 6 of the murders and was executed by lethal injection on October 9th, 2002.
Oh, dang.
We missed it.
That was the day we had our activities. Are you counting that as your
Yeah, because
read?
that's I wrote about her.
Okay. So my next one, last week I talked about how I had some exciting news, which probably is not exciting to everyone, but it's exciting to me. We're going to talk about the Zodiac Killer, who is an unidentified American serial killer who is believed to have murdered at least 5 people in Northern California between 1968 and 1969. And an earlier murder was the stabbing death of an 18-year-old college student in Riverside, California in 1966, is also sometimes attributed to the Zodiac Killer. Well, breaking news. A cold case task force claims to have identified the infamous killer as Gary Francis Post, who died in 2018.
I think it's so unsatisfying that he's dead.
Yeah, and there's a possible like 6th case.
Oh shit.
That they found.
Oh shit.
Yeah, shit's about to get real for Mr. Zodiac here.
No kidding. So my next one is Belle Gunness. She was a Norwegian American serial killer who was active in Illinois and Indiana between 1884 and 1908. Gunness is thought to have killed at least 14 people, most of whom were men she enticed to visit her rural Indiana property on the promise of marriage. While some sources speculate her involvement in as many as 40 murders. Gunness seemingly died by a fire in 1908, but it's popularly believed that she faked her death and her actual fate is unconfirmed.
Oh.
So no, she's crazy. Like she murdered her own children. So this fire they were talking about, because I've watched stuff on her before.
Yeah.
This fire they were talking about, she
I'm trying to figure out
murdered a headless woman, or she murdered a woman and took off her head and burned her family home down with her 2 children in it.
Oh, yes, I know it.
Yeah.
Yes, we've talked about her before, haven't we?
I think we have. But she
I
kept
do know what you're talking about.
She would put in the newspaper that she's looking for a husband.
Yes,
she's a widow looking for a husband with a large farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she'd just be killing them.
Yeah, she would get them in there and then like kill them.
Getting that money.
Yeah,
money.
was it a pig farm?
Yes.
because she kept feeding the bodies, and
Yes.
and after the fire they found all the bodies. They
Yeah.
started finding more and more on the property.
I remember that story. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
My next one is Ohio's local
Our own homegrown.
convicted serial killer, Jeffrey Dahmer. He was also a sex offender who murdered 17 males between 1978 and 1991. He was killed in 1994 by a fellow prison inmate. Thanks, G. Many of his later murders were involved necrophilia, cannibalism, and the permanent preservation of body parts, typically all or part of the skeleton.
Well, I'm glad I'm not a man because he wouldn't have had interest in me. But also, I heard that he said anyone who has tattoos tasted funny.
They make the meat taste funny.
Yeah, so I am undesirable by cannibals, and I'm okay with that.
Well, that's the only reason to get tattooed now. No more Hannibal Lecters for me.
No, thank you. Okay, so my next one is the biggie. I copied a couple. Yeah, there's 3
He's
paragraphs
literally
here.
like the OG.
Jack the Ripper, guys.
Yes.
He was an unidentified serial killer active largely in the impoverished areas around the Whitechapel district of London in 1888. In both the criminal case files and contemporary journalistic accounts, the killer was called the Whitechapel Murderer and Leather Apron. Attacks ascribed to Jack the Ripper typically involved female prostitutes who lived and worked in the slums of the East End of London. Their throats were cut prior to abdominal mutilation. The removal of internal organs from at least 3 of the victims led to proposals that their killer had some anatomical or surgical knowledge. Rumors that the murders were connected intensified in September and October 1888, and numerous letters were received by media outlets in Scotland Yard from individuals pretending to be the murderer. The name Jack the Ripper originated in a letter written by an individual claiming to be the murderer that was disseminated. That
I
sounds
believe
gross. In media. Or in the media. It doesn't like...
I know. Yeah. We can say moist, but not that word.
It doesn't sound right.
It doesn't.
Well, that's how it's written. Okay.
I know.
The letter is widely believed to have been a hoax and may have been written by journalists in an attempt to heighten interest in the story and increase their newspaper's circulation. The From Hell letter received by George Lusk of Whitechapel Vigilance Committee came with half of a preserved human kidney, purposefully taken from one of the victims. The public came increasingly to believe in a single serial killer known as Jack the Ripper, mainly because of both the extraordinarily brutal nature of the murders and the media coverage of the crimes. Extensive newspaper coverage bestowed widespread and enduring international notoriety on the Ripper, and the legend solidified. Police investigation into the series of 11 brutal murders. I can't talk.
You didn't do your yellow leather, red leather.
I didn't do it. Committed in Whitechapel and Spitalfields?
That's a word.
Spitalfields? I don't know. We all know I'm fucking retarded. Between 1888 and 1891 was unable to connect the killings exclusively from the murderers of 1888. 5 victims, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, are known as the Canonical Five. Their murders between August 31st and November 9th, 1888, were often considered the most likely to be linked. These murders were never solved, and the legends surrounding